On October 9, 680, Saint Ghislain, a revered figure in Frankish history, passed away. Known for his ascetic lifestyle, he became a symbol of piety during a time of blossoming Christian faith in the region. Saint Ghislain was an anchorite, which meant he secluded himself from worldly life to focus on prayer and contemplation. This practice of anchoritism was common as early Christian communities sought deeper spiritual connections. Known for his deep spirituality, Ghislain dedicated his life to prayer and the support of the local communities, thus helping to spread Christianity and its values during a transformative era. As a Frankish saint, Ghislain was influential in establishing a spiritual legacy that included acts of charity and guidance for those in need. His teachings were rooted in humility and service, qualities admired by many. Many stories and legends surrounded Saint Ghislain posthumously. He was regarded as a protector and intercessor, with miracles attributed to his life and prayers even after his death. Saint Ghislain's death came quietly, surrounded by nature, reflecting his lifelong commitment to a serene and contemplative existence, embodying the anchorite lifestyle he chose. After his passing, local communities began to venerate him, attributing his teachings and miracles to ongoing acts of divine intervention in their lives. Ghislain's influence extended beyond his death, leading to the establishment of religious practices and rituals that honored his memory and teachings. Through his life as an anchorite, Ghislain demonstrated how engaging deeply with faith can inspire entire communities, paving the way for future generations who sought similar devotion. Saint Ghislain became associated with numerous local customs, including various festivals that celebrated his life, reinforcing the bonds within the Frankish community. As stories of his life and miracles spread, many pilgrimage sites began to emerge across Francia, dedicated to Saint Ghislain, enhancing regional devotion. Written accounts and hagiographies soon followed, chronicling the saint's life, struggles, and aspirations, thus ensuring that his message endured through generations. Eventually, the cult of Saint Ghislain grew, leading to dedicated chapels and altars placed in various homes to honor his influence in daily life. Later generations regarded his life as a model for monastic devotion, inspiring many monks to follow in his footsteps through asceticism and community service. Saint Ghislain's spirit of adventure and exploration became a driving force that encouraged many to seek spiritual enlightenment beyond the familiar confines of their communities. Through his ascetic practices, Ghislain inspired other saints and spiritual leaders who followed suit, promoting the ideals of piety and community service across Francia. Community celebrations became an annual event to honor Saint Ghislain, demonstrating the lasting impact of his teachings on the local populace. In art and literature, Saint Ghislain became a popular subject, symbolizing the balance between isolation in faith and communal interaction, influencing creators of all mediums. As centuries passed, Saint Ghislain's legacy extended beyond Francia, reaching neighboring territories and intertwining with various regional spiritual practices. Thus, the legacy of Saint Ghislain lived on as the stories and teachings continued to encourage personal spiritual journeys and foster community unity in times of need. Saint Ghislain eventually became the patron saint of various localities, and his teachings were celebrated in diverse forms, symbolizing harmony in faith and lifestyle. Legends of Saint Ghislain continue to inspire theatrical performances and artistic expressions, showcasing his life's journey to audiences far and wide. As time marched on, Saint Ghislain's life echoed throughout history as a continual testament to the power of faith, reflection, and community service. The influence of Saint Ghislain inspired healing practices that merged faith with medicinal knowledge, paving the way for holistic approaches in community wellness. Saint Ghislain's original hermitage, once a secluded place of prayer, became a site of pilgrimage for the faithful, embodying a longing for spiritual connection and peace. In the annals of early medieval Christianity, Saint Ghislain's life became a beacon for hermitic spirituality, inspiring future anchorites to embrace solitude alongside community engagement. Saint Ghislain's adherence to poverty and humility sparked discussions among religious scholars on the virtues of a simple, devoted life, influencing theological discourses. In his early years, Ghislain was deeply moved by the teachings of the Christian faith, prompting him to pursue a life of piety and withdrawal from worldly distractions. As an anchorite, Ghislain lived a life of solitude, often retreating into the depths of the forest to deepen his spiritual connection and find inner peace away from society. Ghislain's reputation for wisdom and holiness spread, attracting disciples and seekers who wished to learn from him, thereby creating a small but dedicated community. His ascetic practices included fasting and prayer, which he believed brought him closer to God, reflecting the monastic ideals of the time in the Frankish kingdom. Throughout his life, Ghislain worked to provide for the poor and sick in nearby communities, making significant contributions to their well-being despite his own austere lifestyle. Notably, he was known for his ability to mediate conflicts among the villagers, promoting peace and unity, and serving as a vital link between different factions. Legends of his miraculous powers began to emerge, with stories claiming he could heal the sick and provide guidance through dreams, which further solidified his saintly reputation. The day before his death, it is said that he foretold many future events and offered final words of comfort to his followers, showcasing his prophetic nature. On October 9th, 680, Saint Ghislain passed peacefully in his hermitage, surrounded by nature, embodying the very life of solitude and devotion he championed. News of his death spread quickly, prompting an outpouring of grief and reverence from those whose lives he had touched, leading to the spontaneous gathering of mourners. In the days following his passing, miracles attributed to Ghislain began to surface, strengthening the belief in his holiness among the local population. His followers constructed a small chapel at his hermitage site where people could come to pray and seek blessings, establishing a lasting tribute to his life and work. Over the years, Ghislain's life inspired many similar figures who pursued asceticism, aligning their lives with his teachings and further spreading his influence. Annual festivals began to celebrate his life and works, drawing pilgrims who sought healing and blessings, forever linking his legacy to the community's spiritual identity. Over the centuries, his veneration expanded beyond local borders, with churches dedicated to Saint Ghislain emerging throughout the Frankish lands, honoring his impact on the faith. Saint Ghislain became a symbol of community service and spiritual devotion, influencing the establishment of charitable institutions and monastic communities dedicated to his values. His teachings continued to inspire theological writings and artistic expressions, depicting him as a figure of piety and humility, an ideal for future generations. On the evening of October 9th, 680, Saint Ghislain's breathing slowed as he sat in his humble hermitage surrounded by his followers, who prayed fervently for his peace. Ghislain's voice, though weak, filled the room with words of wisdom, comforting his devoted followers with messages of love and charity, urging them to continue in their faith and community service. As Ghislain took his final breaths, a gentle light seemed to radiate from him, creating an aura of tranquility that filled the room, leaving his followers in awe. Following his death, the news spread quickly among the local villagers, who mourned the loss of their beloved saint, gathering at the hermitage to pay their respects and honor his memory. As the villagers wept, many began to recount stories of how Ghislain had impacted their lives, sharing tales of his kindness and miraculous deeds, further solidifying his legacy. In the days following his death, reports of miracles attributed to Saint Ghislain began to surface, with many claiming healing from ailments after praying at his hermitage. Word of these miracles spread beyond their village, drawing pilgrims from neighboring regions, all seeking the saint's intercession and guidance, amplifying his influence during the early medieval period. Communities began to construct chapels and shrines dedicated to Saint Ghislain, establishing pilgrimage routes that became vital centers of local culture and spirituality. Local folklore transformed into hagiographical accounts, depicting Ghislain not only as a hermit, but also as a miracle worker, protector of the sick, and a peacekeeper among communities. Over time, annual festivals were established in his honor, drawing large crowds who came together to celebrate his life and the ideals he championed: charity, community, and devotion. Artistic depictions of Saint Ghislain began to appear, with artists capturing his contemplative nature and the miracles attributed to him, solidifying his place in Christian iconography. The teachings of Saint Ghislain became a source of inspiration for future monastic communities, fostering a commitment to asceticism and community service that spanned generations. His life prompted discussions in theological circles about the nature of sanctity, asceticism, and community engagement, influencing how holiness was perceived in medieval Christianity. The respect afforded to Ghislain transcended local boundaries. He became a figure of regional significance as neighboring regions recognized his holiness and the miracles attributed to him. Saint Ghislain's influence inspired numerous written accounts and biographies that chronicled his life, miracles, and enduring impact on the lives of everyday people. The dedication to charity and support for the marginalized that originated from Ghislain's teachings fostered the growth of charitable institutions across the Frankish territories. His popularity led to feast days established in honor of his memory, with communities coming together to partake in communal meals and festivities, emphasizing unity. Later, he was depicted in church art, beyond just local chapels, becoming a prominent figure represented in stained glass and sculptures in major cathedrals across the realm. Saint Ghislain's influence extended to liturgical practices, as prayers invoking his intercession became widely adopted within monastic and community settings, enhancing the community spirit. His legacy paved the way for future saints, emphasizing themes of humility, service, and genuine faith that encouraged countless others to pursue similar paths. Saint Ghislain became a symbol of the potential each person has to foster community and faith, showing that a life of simplicity and devotion leads to profound influence. Saint Ghislain's story continued to be told through generations, as his teachings about charity and faith inspired many to fulfill their spiritual journeys and serve their communities. Long after his physical presence was gone, the spirit of Saint Ghislain lived on through the countless acts of kindness and faith, inspired by his deep legacy of love and service.